Hi everyone, welcome to IQ's Take. I'm Amanda Chu and I'm here with Ryan James. So Ryan, could you introduce yourself to everyone please?
Yes, my name is Ryan. I am a junior undergraduate student at the Business School at Emory. I'm studying consulting and entrepreneurship as my secondary major, and I'm just very entrepreneurial. I'm interested in both music and tech startups, which I'm sure we'll talk about a little bit in the conversation. But yeah, that's a little bit about me.
So can you talk about the ventures you've been involved in the past?
Yeah, so most recently I was actually working on a venture called Vimband. Two other Emory students and I were working on this product that's a rechargeable wristband that helps heat and cool your body. So we started at the beginning of my freshman year at Emory, and we worked on it all the way up until basically the end of my sophomore year. And we participated in the Whole Prize competition, which is an international social entrepreneurship competition. Yes, and we made it all the way to the second to last stage, which was awesome, raised a bunch of money, which was cool, and just learned a lot throughout the process. And then I would say my venture before that was called Power Elite, which was a startup that I made where I essentially taught myself how to code and graphic design and made websites and apps for myself and for other clients. And that was, I guess, my 8th grade year of middle school, all the way up until like end of high school. Yeah, so like goes way back.
So have you always been into entrepreneurship, or is like middle school, or just keeps growing and accumulating into college?
I would say that I've always been a creative type person, so I always have enjoyed making things, whether that be apps like mobile apps or websites or pieces of technology or even like music. Like I'm always just very creative, I feel like, and I want to use that in sort of a business-minded way that I can be entrepreneurial and kind of take that wherever it can take me.
So what inspired your power startup venture?
Yeah, so I would probably say that, I mean, probably 6th or 7th grade, I don't know, I was obsessed with Steve Jobs in middle school.
Steve Jobs,
I'm sure
yes,
or not, yeah. He was popping off, and all the keynotes I watched, and I was like, whoa, you made touchscreen, and I was like, this is crazy. Even though like the product technology was already created, whatever, but you know, I was just enthused by the iPod and all those different things. And that just inspired me to get into the app development world. And I started to read a lot on like, how do you build apps for iOS? And I went to the library, rented out some books, and used YouTube to teach myself like, you know, how to make apps. And I made my first app my 8th grade year, which was a dining app that was my second. The first app was a game for people to use. It was just like combine 2 pictures. So you saw like mail, and you saw a box. It was like Nancy's mailbox. Very simple, very simple. Like I called
iPhone game?
Yes, iPhone game. I called it Pick Quiz, and yeah, right. So very, very wholesome, and it was fun. And then a couple years later, I made an app for my school that was the dining menu for our lunch, and allowed students to also make recommendations for what to serve. And I basically set up a system where I would forward all that information to the director of the dining services. Yeah, and I also made a couple websites, one for a student that was selling t-shirts. You know, I had my own website. But yeah, I mean, I just really enjoyed the creative process of building all of it. And I think that's pretty much what allowed me to get that creative expression out of me. And I also really love graphic design too.
So you're both like front end and back end?
Yeah, you know, so I feel like that good mix helps too.
Yeah. So you self-taught yourself how to code and everything?
Yeah, exactly. I took, actually, I would probably say over one of the summers in middle school, I took an HTML coding class, which was super fun. I really liked it. But other than that, I didn't really have any, I guess, formal teaching experience until high school when I took computer science, I think my sophomore, junior year. But yeah, I mean, also for anybody that's like interested in like learning, like, you know, it's just a YouTube search away if you're really interested, and people have a bunch of tutorials of how to make your first game, how to do this, how to do that. So I feel like, especially now in 2020, all the resources are out there to do it.
I definitely agree. I feel like with the internet, like anyone can have the power to learn any skill. They just need to like be innovative and take that charge to really seek it.
Yeah.
So then for like Vimband and stuff, did you like know coming into Emory that you want to start a startup, or was it just kind of naturally inspired? Or
a mix of both. So I didn't come to Emory knowing that I wanted to do a startup, but I did come into Emory emailing a bunch of people saying, how can I get involved in like the business community here? So one person that I reached out to redirected me to a student. His name is Kieran. He just graduated last year. He was also a co-founder with me in Vimband. And he told me about the Hope Prize, right? And I did my research, and I was like, this is super cool. You make a startup, you get a chance to win $1 million, put me in, right? So I made a Facebook post that said, if anybody wants to join a team, I'm making one. I had a bunch of people respond. Eventually the team trickled down to 4 and then to 3. And yeah, I mean, we really just made it for the competition. So obviously with that in mind, like that also brought a bunch of different challenges, right? It wasn't like something that was like innate, like within us that we're like, we need to make this, but it was more of like the competition, to the competition. So, but it was super fun. I mean, we presented at Crisweta, we went to San Francisco to pitch our business. We were in London for 6 weeks, I think, to do an accelerator. We were also in EVM's accelerator.
Hey!
So shout out. Definitely the accelerator was great for us. And we learned a lot, and we just did a bunch of pitch competitions around here to help us raise money. And yeah, just networked a bunch just to raise money, because that's what you need.
So did you know your co-founders beforehand, or was it just the Facebook post?
Yeah, no, I just met them they responded, and they're in the same, I'm in the Scholars program at Emory, so they're in the same program, right? So I had seen them, but like it wasn't like I knew them or anything. So, and it was my first. It was like probably 3-4 weeks into my first.
I was gonna ask, like you were a freshman. Like I feel like freshmen were still trying to figure out college as a whole. Like being a freshman so new to college, but also having to like deal with having your own venture.
Startup, crazy. Like I'm glad that I did it, but I mean obviously, it's a lot of work. Just not only for the startup, but just transitioning in college, right? I mean everybody knows that your first year at Emory or your first year in college first semester is a lot of transitioning and meeting people and getting to know people, finding your friends and all that stuff. So I was kind of doing that while also. It was kind of cool to have like the startup team, I guess too, because it was like a group that I could work with on a consistent basis, and it was stuff that I enjoyed doing, right? So I was just like ideating, thinking of cool ideas that could be implemented, and even just like meeting with professors and talking with different people about how to accomplish something, how do you find your market, how do you price your product, all these different questions. It was just really fun.
So, Power Elite, was that just one person? Was that just you?
Yes. So it was myself, and then also my sister helped, I guess, manage the company. So she did sort of give me some advice here and there in terms of how I should run it. She's also interested in business. She went to business school at WashU and graduated there. But yeah, I mean, it was pretty much just me, and sometimes I'd be like, Dad, can you come to this meeting because I don't know how I'm gonna negotiate this price, right? So I was still like a young high school student that wasn't really familiar with the whole business world, but was still eager to get my feet wet and learn.
So how do you think that like having a one-person kind of venture differed from having like a group of co-founders, like a team? And you said you mentioned like you reached out to Emory professors and things like that. Was it just having more resources?
I think it was a mix of having more resources for sure, because especially when I was in high school, it's like, I mean, there might have been resources that I could have taken advantage of, but I feel like for most high schools, at least in the US, it's like you pretty much just go there to learn, and if there are extracurriculars that they have, like maybe if my school had an extracurricular coding program, I'd be in it, but we didn't really have too much of that. I just kind of took it upon myself. But yeah, working with a team and meeting with professors brought a lot of cool new opportunities and also some challenges too, because obviously it's like you get a lot more diverse opinions and diverse thought. But with that also comes like, okay, we have to make one decision, right? So how do we come to, we have 5 different ideas on the table. How do we decide which one we're going to pick? And how do we make sure that nobody's feelings are hurt in the process? And how do we push forward from there? So all those, I guess, inner workings of group startup culture is important.
So what was the ideation like then for Vimband? Like, did you guys have conflicting ideas, or were you guys like, this is the one, you gotta do it, you know what I mean?
It was a process, right? So the first time we met, after I made the post, I was like, okay, cool, it's me. We met in Cox, I think, and we were basically like, we're like, come and have some ideas, right? So we all presented the ideas that we had, and we asked each other questions like, okay, well, do you think this would be something like long term? Do you think this is what they're looking for? Do you think this is something that would work? And we kind of just slowly trickled down. I would probably say about 2-3 week process after meeting with each other and meeting with professors to decide that, okay, we want to make this rechargeable wristband that can help heat and cool your body. Because after we had a meeting with a professor in the environmental sciences department, we had found out that this technology is out there and it's possible to do. But it was just a matter of implementing it, and I guess specifically in this context, testing it, with our market to see, is this something that would actually help? And yeah, I mean, that was a process too.
So you didn't know the tech existed until like you reached out to the professor?
Yeah, and unfortunately I'm blanking on her name right now, but she pointed us in that direction, and our team talked about it, and we were like, not only is this like a really cool idea, but it's like cool new innovative technology, right? And I think that in and of itself helped us a tremendous amount in the competition, because a lot of people have heard of different ways to create energy and different ways to conserve energy. The topic was energy, by the way, for that year. And we were like, well, how about we use the power of energy through this new piece of technology that really, I mean, it's in refrigerators, it's in like the Mars rover. It's basically just like a temperature regulating device. Why don't we take this to a different, placement on a body and see if we can actually like make a difference in how people feel if they're too cold or too hot. So.
And then how was it like getting into like the prototype stage and like you said market? How did you test the market?
Yeah. So first with prototyping, that was definitely a difficult process. We worked with someone in the physics department to help us make the technology, right? So we had no real technical background in terms of engineering, right? That's totally different than like just coding. And he pretty much taught us like how to use microchips and how do you code the microchip to tell electronics to do certain things, and how do you solder these things together, and what does the wiring have to be, right? So all these different questions he helped us answer. Shout out Josh Mendez, he was very integral in our process. And yeah, he pretty much helped us. He taught us, like he took out a lot of time in his schedule. Like we met with him like once a week, probably for an hour, and even came to his office outside of that just to be like, can we use your office to use your equipment and work? And he was very helpful. For the market, I would say that originally we started targeting Nicaraguan farmers because we had spoken to one professor, I think a couple of professors that were familiar with that market and knew that for a lot of farmers there, I mean, it's extreme heat, right? And there's no real efficient way to provide those farmers with relief. And we sent out surveys to someone that was traveling there, and they surveyed a bunch of farmers on our product in Spanish and got the info back to us in English, and we were like, okay, we don't know this market at all. Also, we don't really know if this is the best product for them, because I feel like it's more of like, it's very hot outside and there's like extreme heat, and we felt like our product was more, it's very hot outside. For extreme heat, we felt like there would need to be more, like it would need to be like either like a tub of like ice cold water with some sort of other more cooling technology than just the wristband, which was a lot more feasible for like maybe southern Georgia temperatures, and that's when we shifted to outdoor workers in the U.S. And we ran a study with construction workers in Plains, Georgia, and we drove down there, sit out there for a few days, and had the construction workers wear prototypes while they were working. And we worked with someone from nursing school. Her name is Dr. Valerie Mack. She was also so helpful to us. She was the one that pretty much ordered all the equipment that we needed to track their body temperature, like skin temperature, all the things that we really had no idea how to do. And she stayed out there with us while we were doing this. And yeah, and we got great data back and like proof of that it worked. And that really did help us like propel to the next stage. So I feel like we did choose the right target, I guess, at the end of the day.
So it's a lot of like trial and error, and then like also like mentorship from Emory resources. Like, did you find them to be very helpful? Like, did you know who to ask, or was it kind of just like shooting out and then seeing who could kind of give you the answer?
Yeah, latter, definitely the latter. Because we probably emailed we emailed like, let's say 100 people. Let's say half of them didn't respond. Half of the people that did respond probably weren't like going to be helpful or wasn't the right person, and then half of that was like people that were helpful and did help us. So I mean, there were definitely probably, I would say, like 5 to 10 people or professors at Emory that were pretty like integral to like making sure that, you know, we could continue to progress and like teach us all the different things. You know, whether it be in the business school, the nursing school, physics department, you know, we were hitting all these different areas to try to both raise money and just get knowledge about how to do this.
So how do you think like your technical skills versus soft skills have played a role in like, your ventures, or just maybe in general? How do you think they play a role?
Well, I think for me personally, I feel like I also developed my soft skills in a way somewhat early, like through like the early startups that I did and working with people that allowed me to sort of gain those soft skills to do that. But it was also like, you know, even today I'm still working on my soft skills, and I think it's just a constant process of just like working with people and working through problems that you get better at that stuff. Technical skills is actually an interesting story because I feel like I started off like, you know, when I was in middle school in 8th grade, it was like, I don't think anybody else in I would say 1 or 2 other people in my grade or in my high school were like doing that sort of thing, like making apps or like doing website sort of things. And so I felt like I was like ahead of the curve. And then like all of a sudden it's like 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, you know, and then people just come out with like, oh yeah. And you know, I sort of stepped back a little bit from coding, I feel like, after high school and probably after like my sophomore year of high school. And yeah, I think, you know, especially with Vimband and other, I guess, tech stuff that I might do in the future, I feel like I have a knowledge that can give me a basis for what I need to do and maybe even make like a template or wireframe for what I want. But at the same time, there are definitely like so many different people that are more skilled in coding and engineering than I am that I would just be like, okay, you're responsible for that part, right? So, yeah.
In Vimband, did like one of your co-founders have like that technical role, or were you guys all kind of like?
Yeah, no, I mean, so we had it split up where we each sort of tried to take a position in the company, I guess, that we'd be responsible for. So I mentioned Kieran earlier as one of our co-founders. The other co-founder, Jesse, he actually took the head of the engineering aspects and tech aspects, and he had a decent amount of background in that area. I think again from just like interest and you know, like tinkering with things as a kid, he said. So he was very good on that end, but I think it was also a group learning experience for us. You know, it's like none of us really knew 100% what we were doing, but we were also just like
exploring together.
Yeah, you know, and you know, just try to trust each other in whatever decisions we make. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
So we saw that you interned at Facebook as well. So what was that like, and how is that different from, like, how do you feel like that large corporation experience is different from, I don't know, your startups and like ventures and consulting and all that?
Yeah, I mean, it's like completely different, right?
Yeah.
It's like obviously in a startup, it's just like you don't know what you're doing the next day, or like you do, but you don't know if you're gonna get it done. And so many uncertainties, and working at Facebook is just like, I mean, just so many things are in place that I mean, for example, like the people that I talked to that had been there for like at least like 3-4 years, it's like they're still learning new things every day. Not only about the company, but about like the products that they work with, right? So on the back end, it's just like, what are the coders coming up with to make things easier for Facebook employees, and what are we updating our platform with, and then there's so many resources that you have to look through about like, how is Instagram doing this year, where is it going next year, like all these different things. So it was, I think, definitely a huge learning experience, but also a lot more structured environment, I would say, in terms of, okay, I mean, pretty much we had a couple projects that we were working on. We were learning about Facebook's ad platform and how all that works and algorithms and stuff. So it was just super cool to learn about it, and seeing like, okay, this is where advertising is sort of like heading in the next like 10 years, right? So yeah.
Do you have any personal preference for like versus like that corporate structured field versus like startup? Don't know what you're gonna do.
Yeah. I feel like I do find joy in like the startup aspect and way of life, just because I feel like I'm somebody that doesn't really like structure a lot. Like I like just like sometimes doing things on the whim.
Spontaneous.
Spontaneous, and just like coming up with my own ideas about, oh, let's completely change direction and go a different way, which is not really possible at a corporation that has a specific goal. It's like, no, you're doing this. But I definitely do value like working at a larger corporation and like big tech companies too, just because you learn just so much. It's just like, just from being there and just being exposed to all like the different conversations, the meetings, and the resources that they give you, and just how they run the company. Like you can learn so much. Just like me being there over the summer, it's like, oh, I didn't know that you should probably have this at a company so that employees do this and that, and like all these different connections that I didn't make that will be helpful for when I'm working with a team of like 3 to 4 people. Now I know it's like, okay, these are probably structures we should set in place now before things get a little messy and stuff like that.
So you've been able to find connection between like, because I know you're also like diversely interested in rapping and like consulting. Like, do you think you've like found connection between all those?
Honestly, probably the intersection that ties is, like I was saying before, for me at least, is the creative aspect. So like, you know, even when you're working at a big corporation like Facebook, it's like they still want you to think outside the box and be able to come up with ideas for their clients or just for the company that is like, this is not something that we have thought of before. Thank you for bringing that up. We're going to like implement that. So I think that's probably the common thread between them all. And yeah, I mean, I feel like definitely that's what I like too, because it, once again, it gives me like sort of creative freedom to have my own thoughts, my own ideas, and put that out into the world.
So you're also the president of CYC.
Yeah.
So when did you first get involved in CYC? CYC stands for Consult Your Community, a great organization at Emory campus. When did you first get involved in that, and how has that really played a role in your college experience?
Yeah, so I also joined CYC my first semester of my
wow.
yeah,
so you're balancing. Okay.
I was doing a lot when I came to college. That I joined a lot of clubs and dropped a lot of stuff, but CYC was the club that I've stayed with since my first semester. And it's really awesome. I think my first semester that I was in CYC was like really impactful for me, because I really got a chance, because like it's my first time in Atlanta. But also what CYC does, for those that don't know, is we provide pro bono consulting services for low-income and minority-run businesses in Atlanta. So free consulting for these people. I was a business analyst, which is like, I guess, the entry-level position in the social community for a couple semesters. And then I was an engagement manager, the project lead, for a couple semesters. And then last semester was my first semester as president, also this semester. Thank you, yes. And yeah, I mean, it's been a blast.
As you can see, Ryan James has a lot of different diverse interests, and we're gonna move on to asking some fun questions. So basically you can just pick any of these cards.
Great.
Alright. So, as you just mentioned, you were also in CYC and both balancing the whole price. So how do you really balance, like, how was it balancing your entrepreneurial interests with your like school responsibilities and like extracurricular responsibilities, everything like that?
Yeah. I would probably say that first is that obviously, like, if doing two big things. It's like you're making trade-offs, right? So obviously I wasn't going to sleep at like 10 or 11 most nights. It would be probably 2, 3, but it was all worth it for me because I was being rejuvenated, you know, through the work that I was doing. So I think that, you know, for CYC and for the startup that I worked on, it was also very important for me to block out specific times. And working with a team, it's a lot easier to do that because you're like, okay, let's meet from this time to this time on this day and come prepared with this. And then let's meet this time on this day and come, you know, with the list or whatever. So it was almost like a class, but at the same time, it was like, you know, we were making trips to Home Depot at 10 o'clock at night to be like, hey, can you give us some wood? And then go to the tech lab and be like, okay, we need to carve this wood, pour silicone in it to make wristbands and dry it. And all
so you made it yourself?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you like had someone separate making it.
No, yeah, we were bootstrapping all the way up. Yeah, so yeah, it was definitely a process, and like that in and of itself, like making the wristbands was a process in and of itself, and making microchips in the tech was a process. So it was yeah, it was just a matter of making sure that, you know, I had the time blocked out for it specifically, but then also just like looking in and making sure that this is like something that I really actually just enjoy doing, which it was. So it made it easier for me to, you know, keep pushing and stay up a little later to get it done.
Yeah, like when people say if you enjoy your work, then the work isn't really work.
Exactly. Yeah. So
how would you describe Emory's entrepreneur community then?
I would say that it is. I would say that it's thriving in a way that for the people that are very involved in it will feel that way. You know, I feel like with maybe other departments or areas of study or disciplines is that, you know, there is a lot of recruitment and pushing out, you know, this is happening and so on and so forth. I think with the entrepreneurial community, it's more like how you have to be when you're an entrepreneur, is going out and finding where these things are. So I think it's at a good, healthy, churning pace. And it's more a question of, okay, so now what are we doing with the resources that we have on campus to improve them and make them better?
I feel like for entrepreneurs, especially entrepreneurs, like student entrepreneurs, I think the hardest part is that we don't always know what's going on. Like you really just have to take that jump, like you mentioned, and like kind of feel your way through the room and like see what's going on.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay, so moving on to the next random question. Which one would you like to pick? Okay, so if you had an extra hour in your day, how would you want to spend it?
Ooh.
And would that have changed if you had an extra hour in your freshman year?
My freshman year, I probably would have spent it on my startup. And then now I'd probably spend it on music.
Oh.
Yep.
Oh. Awesome.
Yep. So yeah, that was what I was working on my freshman year, and very like 100% all in. And now I feel like I'm like music 100% all in. Like try to spend as much time as I can, getting better and just working on stuff and getting creative outlets out.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Link up here to Spotify.
Yeah.
Okay, and last question.
All right.
Well, as a rapper, so we're gonna give you some time to think about it, but could you pitch your startup, Vimband or Harley, while rapping?
Okay.
So we just gave him some time to think about his bars, and we actually have a beat for him. Okay. Okay.
You can let him play.
You ready?
Yeah, sure.
Are you guys ready? Okay.
Let me tell you about Vimband. You just put it on your skin, man. Keep your skin cool, skin warm. In the summer, in the winter. I don't even know, or you should buy one right now. Everybody got it right now. Trying to get the money up now. I don't really.
Wow, amazing. Thank you so much for doing that. That was amazing. Best end to podcast ever. Thank you so much for taking the time today to come out with us and talk through all your ventures and your experiences. It was so nice to talk to you.
Thank you.
And we learned so much. I think we can all get a lesson from how he pursued his diverse interests, how he just took that leap during his freshman year, and anyone can be an entrepreneur. Thank you so much. Thank you for watching IQ's Take.
IQ's Take.
Woo!
Woo!